in, for us as practitioners in our line of work, but also to enhance that and raise the awareness in the workplace, in the commercial environment, which is an area of an opportunity which, I think many of us would speak from experience where, like us, unlike some of the disciplines like, marketing, sales, or accounting, which are perhaps, pretty well recognized in the commercial environment and seen as pillars of, operations or, the finance. Our aspiration is to bring to the fore what business process management should be in the back and front of mind and part of any business operations, essential to any sustainable business operations. So to support our vision, we want to be the most authoritative source of information on all things business process management, defining the discipline and practice of BPM as well. And through membership with the ABPMP, through the international group, as well as through the Australian chapter, we would like to then aspire to be the de facto, acknowledged as the de facto requirement, or the accreditation for all professionals who want to develop professionally in the BPM field, and also have a recognized accreditation, just like you would, when you talk about finance, it's a CPA or a CFA. And, if we talk about business process management, it should be a certification in BPM that is being offered by the international body. We also want to recognize and acknowledge and honor the outstanding contributions that members and practitioners in these fields have actually been contributing on the subject matter. As a matter of fact, that might be a little known fact that the subject of business process management is are being taught academically at the tertiary level, for instance, in the University in Melbourne Uni, as well as the Queensland Uni of Technology as well. So apart from giving our members an opportunity to develop and participate and acquire a recognized business process management certification, as a professional body and as a network, it's also the last point that I would like to stress, and together with with joint effort and collaboration to stimulate and support demand in the market for candidates, for prime candidates with BPM skills, as a channel for professional networking and job career development in the BPM field as well.
Yeah. Just to add, just jump in to add on the education side, that with the universities, especially with University of Melbourne, we are in the process of trying to negotiate a discount for ABPMP Australia members when they are taking their courses. Again, it is still in progress. We will let you know what will be the outcome if you are a member of ABPMP Australia.
All right. So the next slide is questions, or any questions that I see from the attendees. If you have any questions about what ABPMP is about, whether it's an international association or the Australian chapter, please feel free to share your thoughts with us.
Anyone have any questions about ABP Australia, or even the chapter itself, or the international body ABPMP, especially for those who are first timer that heard about ABPMP? It's sort of quite a long catch of the name. It took me some time to actually being able to say that in a very fast way, ABPMP, and not
not mess it up. Yeah.
So it's Angela here. Did you say that there is a certification, a formal certification for BPM professionals, or we're trying to put in place a structure for certification?
There is. We're going to cover that sort of introduce that later on. It's from ABPMP. They have not one. They have quite a good body of knowledge with a good structure.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. Are you going in the future slides? Are you going to be running through sort of what you'd be looking at from a networking perspective? So would it be like a regular quarterly sort of get together, or online sessions, or subject related matters, or people who are involved actually contributing or requesting subjects from members to talk about?
I think that's an excellent segue into the next slide, isn't it?
Oh,
if
okay.
it is the next slide, but yeah, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Great question, and that's definitely part of the professional networking. Any other questions? Before we move to the next slides?
Yeah, it's Greg here. Is this coming from more of a BPM? BPM can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Is this more from a process analyst perspective, or a systems implementation BPMS, or does it cover sort of all sort of both technology and sort of process mapping methodologies? I'm just trying to understand the sort of angle that people are taking to see whether it's the right forum for me.
It covers everything, but it's mainly on the M side, right? The actual management. So it involves the mapping, it involves the process improvement. And today you can't get by without some of the technologies that support it anyway, because it's been around for well over 20 years, but it hasn't really been taken up strongly because the technologies weren't there. But no, technology is not the main emphasis, but there will be components of that.
Okay, thanks.
I think the next slide is covering that.
Okay.
This is another great segue.
Great
one of these
question.
segues is going to work.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next slide.
Right. No, it's the wrong slide. So no, go on.
No, that's fair. We have you covered.
So that is the common body of knowledge, or what they call the CBOC it's called the BPM CBOC, Business Process Management CBOC, which is in its version 3 or 4, not exactly remember that, but it's now very, very well structured. So that is the area covered within the whole CBOC. So very good question from Craig is that, what does it cover? Yes, it covers most of the thing. Is there anything that need to be added in the future? Yes, because if you are professional members, there are always ways that we can contribute to the whole CBOC, the international CBOC, not just the Australia one. So that will be good to understand that it's always encompassing all the different areas, because at the end of the day, in order to do business process management, you will pretty much need all the components inside there. So you can go from the very high level enterprise process management to process management organizations. This is a lot of the time we talk about process architecture. This is pretty much in that area. And then you have the more practice side of business process management, from the process modeling, process analysis. This is the day-to-day, pretty much the day-to-day job of a process analyst. And then a missing component that was seldom talked about is the process performance management. A lot of the time it's afterthought that everything is running. So yes, how are we going to measure that? And of course, there is a bigger picture that need to run behind the scene of the process transformation, or even the whole digital transformation, which we see as a part of process transformation, because at the end, it's just that the process become digital. The good is still the good, the human is still the human. And then you have the technologies behind it, from the early days of workflow management, workflow systems, to BPMS, to intelligent BPMS, to RPAs that we talk about now, robotic process automations, and the latest things that come to the table. Of course, that is the process mining and all the predictive analytics that, well, without the technologies, you can't predict anything. It's just like when I was working with Stephen and James at BOM, we just realized that we talk about predictive analytics. Actually, they've been using that to predict our weather forecast for ages. And we're just trying to use those same methodologies to understand how things could work in terms of our business process. So this is pretty much an overview of the BPMC block in terms of the certification will similarly cover those areas. So again, all the programs, educations, and events will be around every aspect of that. I know that we have very limited resources and time. We'll try to get your feedback. Once you're a member, we'll try to see that we'll try to accommodate as much as possible and try to focus the things that are on the latest topic on everybody's mind. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So from the CBOC, that comes the certification that follow the CBOC. So the whole is an internationally recognized certification. It is not just exam-based, but it's also based on your experience. So if you look at it, there are 3 levels, starting from CBPA. The A stands for associate. That one doesn't require any, it's an entry level, so there's no work experience required. Then the next level is CBPP, is a professionals. So, just a clarification, CBP, the certification is separate from a professional membership with the association. There are 2 different things. Certification is about your knowledge. The professional members is about your participation with the association. Okay, so the knowledge in the testing of knowledge is totally based on the CBOC, the BPM CBOC, and then the highest level is what they call the CBPL. L stands for leader, which is still in progress of being developed, the whole certification on that. So this is, you can see that it is pretty much very well structured, not only in terms of the knowledge area, but to become a CBPP, you will also require, like all the other professions, you're required to have a certain level of work experience, number of years in that work experience. So the whole structure is to allow a person from the entry level to be groomed from the entry level as associate all the way to professionals and in the future going to become a leader. So in terms of your job title in the organization, a lot of the time you will be similar as well, from the analyst level to a lead level or to the manager level, and then to more governance type. If you want to the CBPL as a chief process architect is more alongside the governance level. So that is pretty much about the whole certification. So you can see that it's very well structured.
So I think to further add to that, for everyone's discussion, is apart from as you can see, a very structured approach towards not only the body of knowledge of the CBOC, but also the accreditation. What we are aiming to do through the chapter and through the association is to develop that professional network where, on top of that, we keep abreast with the latest intelligence and the latest development, in the marketplace, something that maybe more on a more informal basis, on a networking basis, and might not be covered in the textbook CBOC context. So this is an evolving nature, and also as part of professional development, as we learn from the wider group as to what the technology is, what's developing, and as an association, be able to give that feedback to the international group and help them develop the materials as we evolve.
Yeah, there is very much towards a contribution of the CBOC. Being certified myself as a CBPP, I can that was quite a number of years ago. And then also there's a requirement as a professional body, there is a requirement for recertification. The first one is 5 years. After that is a 3-year cycle, similar to accountant. So they want to keep the persons up to scratch with all the latest developments in the BPM areas across. That is why, including the technology, you might not be a technology expert, but you still need to know what is happening outside there, because it will be impacting how process works with and without technology. There's huge differences. So in terms of work experience, I can share with you, probably we can talk about it if you have a question, but I can quickly share with you is that your work experience will actually help you to understand and move forward quite swiftly in terms of the whole certification, even taking the exam, because once you go through the CBOK, it's more of a realization that I see this is what happened when I have that piece of work, when I'm doing that. You can relate that very easily back to the actual work, rather than just looking at it as a from the theory perspective. So as an associate, probably it's at that level, but once you are a professional that is doing work, it's quite easy to relate things back. So because remember, the whole CBOK is developed by professionals as well. So it's very, very down to earth, related to things that are actually happening to your day-to-day works. Yeah. I think we can move to the next slide.
Okay, sure. Right, so this is the structure of the National and Regional Committee. Max, over to you.
So yeah, just quickly, just to give you an idea of how the whole national chapter is formed, I would say that it's a blessing of COVID-19, because in the past there are multiple attempts to form. A couple of years, around 4 or 5 years back, we formed the Melbourne chapter. I believe that somebody formed the Sydney chapter, but it doesn't go very well. And when we try to reinitiate the whole thing this year, and we faced up with the COVID-19 restriction, but over the time, then we realized that it's a good opportunity that everybody embraced the online webinar. It's just like your new normal now. So it's a good opportunity to move to the national level and have a national body, which will have a better position to collaborate between different state professionals at different areas, to work together, even to share ideas. So in terms of that, we have a national board. We have a president, myself, the BP membership Kwan, BP program and education, which is Stephen, and BP finance, the treasurers James, who look after the money and come after you for the money. And they have BP communications, Rishi, he has an excuse, we got some family issues. And then we have a BP chapter operations. Currently it is vacant. Then you have the subcommittees, which we think that we will need more people, opportunity to participate and to contribute, is membership subcommittee, program subcommittee, education subcommittee. The two might be initially combined as one, but hopefully in the long run, we can run into 2 subcommittees. And then the last one is operations subcommittee. And on the regional side, what we aim is to have what we call a regional hubs. So it will be led by a regional managers, and there will be 2 or 3 regional delegates for each of this area. In the initial thought was based on each state, but then after consideration, we put some of the state together, because you will need to have enough numbers participating to make it substantial. So it might be good to have the smaller state going together with the bigger states. So we have the Victoria and Tasmania, New South Wales and ACT, Queensland itself, Western Australia itself, and South Australia and Northern Territory. That is pretty much how everything is structured. So the regional managers and delegates will be a part of the committee in terms of running the regional hub. Yeah, pretty much that is how the national and the regional committees will be set up. Next slide.
Okay, so I'll move on to any further questions or thoughts about, what Max has just shared with you in terms of professional development, in terms of, the overall membership structure of the organization.
Hi, Quan. It's Michael Cook speaking. To the others, everybody else, thank you for the invitation. I had a question. I am an active IIBA, well, less active IIBA member, and I'm also on the board for International Association of Facilitators. So there's an interest there in terms of how this body sees itself interacting in that crossover territory that you mentioned before, Max. And so that was one part of it, I suppose, a question. How do you see that sort of playing out in terms of partnerships with the other bodies? And the second question, which is, I suppose, related. Actually, maybe I'll leave the first one so I don't chew up all the airtime.
Yeah, in terms of collaboration, I think we'll be trying to at the national or at the global level or international level, I think that would be the decision from the ABPMP to decide how they're going to interact with that. I believe there is currently not much interaction because they are each of them is trying to expand their territory and their scope of coverage. That is from my experience, because I used to be a member of IIB as well a long time ago, but choose my focus to be more business process focused. So that's why I decided to go under ABPMP. But I think from the local point of view or Australian point of view, or even at each of the regional hubs, I see that there is no harm to have some sort of collaborations or even joint event if there is an opportunity, especially when there are areas like I would be very frank, like in terms of process management, even process modeling, or even when is process modeling required. In terms of the IIBA, the BA BOC, there is a huge gap from my personal point of view. Is a huge gap on how they present them and how ABPMP as a more focused, business process focused professional bodies placed the whole process modeling and process analysis in the bigger picture. So in a very simple sense is we see process as a driven driver. Driven driver is the same thing on a lot of changes that is happening in an organization. So it's have a more important role to play, and therefore from my experience again, when I started as a BA all the way to become a business process specialist, is that without a good understanding and good handling on the business process, a lot of the flow-on solutions or even projects will have a lot of issues. So definitely there is a lot of opportunities to collaborate with, even with PMI, IIBA, other professional bodies in a way to share our knowledge.
And I think this a very good question, Michael. And I think this also, example of that is the crossover. If you think of Lean and Six Sigma, they used to be, almost standalone, and then, from each side, it became Lean Six Sigma, and seeing that one has a toolkit that plug some of the perceived gaps of the other as well and complement each other. So these are the opportunities, and that we are open to obviously learning along the way, where we can complement and jive with different professional bodies, and at the same time learn from potentially other areas which may not have been covered in that much detail from a BPM perspective as well.
I think another area is change management, which we try to have that as well, to cover that, because change management is, again, in much of the transformation, is a very key part.
Yeah, and that also has Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, Michael.
In the change management body, and I'm also on the Business Architecture Guild, and I think the challenge is the cross-pollinating, and when we take kind of ivory tower kind of positions on who's more important, the guild then has an issue. So the challenge is, as you pointed out, Max, it's how does the body assist a particular kind of group move forward, at the same time considering the client at the end of the client that we're interacting with, and from a perspective.
Definitely agree. I don't mind sharing with you that I'm actually a member of the BAG as well. I remember a lot of things, but again, this is, as I mentioned earlier, I see the business process as the driver. So the others are supplement and complement to the whole thing. But the person sitting on the other fence will see it the other way around. But at the end of the day, it's sort of like complementing each other. It's the different tools in the box, and then you need to understand when to use what tools out of the box.
Part of the question, it's not, as I said, I don't want to suck up the airtime, so I'll pass over, but it was around the certification, which is the other bodies have taken hours or it's almost a knowledge base as the means of assessing competency, as a proxy for competency. So I was interested in, from a certification point of view, how we look at those certification pathways. How are they achieved? In the IIBA, 10,000 hours is 10,000 hours of business analysis, but I can tell I've managed thousands now of BAs who are rubbish analysts. And I don't say that critically, because they're good in maybe one part of a competency, but they've passed a body of knowledge and got a certification, but they have very little practical experience in terms of, broader context, as you put it. So,
we will share that frame, the whole slides at the end of the
Oh,
events, and you can happily look at that, and we can take it offline and discuss it further. Definitely.
no problem. Thanks.
Yep, thanks, Michael. Any other questions from the floor?
Yes, Robert here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Robert.
Hi. I'm just wondering, is there any initiative or direction to get more recognition from the employer side on the ABPMP certifications? Because I'm process analyst myself. I've been checking the roles on process a lot. Where I see require of Lean, Six Sigma, Black Belt, this kind of certifications, but rarely I see any certification that we have just seen before. So I guess that from a potential candidate point of view, you want to make good return of on your time. So how much it can take you further on your professional pathway, or I'm curious about that.
Stephen, you want to?
Yeah, I think part of the challenge is to educate businesses to understand what BPM actually is. And that in many cases where they've been involved in automation or Lean and Six Sigma projects, which have failed because they haven't taken that end-to-end view and they've put it back into an environment which is chaotic, and therefore any gains that were achieved through any of those things were quickly lost. It's getting businesses to understand that BPM actually provides that glue that holds this together. So one of the goals that we're trying to achieve in this is to raise the profile of BPM with organizations so that they start asking for people with BPM knowledge. And I have seen more adverts lately for people in BPM roles, but once again, no one's asking for any sort of qualification or certification. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you never saw any adverts for Scrum Masters. Now you can't open the pages without seeing that being a requirement, even though it's treated far more broadly than it's actually supposed to be. But yeah, this is part of the thing, Rob, that if we can demonstrate through being able to have showcases of organizations where this is done significant improvements in that organization, and start to get organizations realizing that this is something that's very useful to them, then you'll start seeing the demand hopefully for BPM people, and they'll be requiring certification just to prove at least that you've studied the subject, whether you're any good at it or not. I think that's a more difficult thing to show.
I think let me jump back to IIBA as an example again. When IIBA first started the whole CBAP certification, nobody know about that. It took them many years to reach there. From the lesson from that is that you will need to have a group of people, as Stephen said, you have good practitioner with the certification going out there, contributing to businesses. Then they will start realizing that people with the certification actually know what they are doing. And then there are a lot more people joining and getting the certification. It's sort of a chicken and egg thing that is in a cycle that will grow the practice as a profession, because currently nobody asks for it, because there is, can frankly say that most employer or senior management never see BPM as a profession. They say that we just get somebody to draw the boxes that will do the job. They will tick the box. Yes, we are doing process management because somebody is drawing the boxes. So we need to move away from that, and that actually depends on having a professional bodies and enough members within the professional bodies that have the certifications to drive that. It's sort of a chicken and egg at the same time, because without people having certification, you will never business will never value the certifications. So somebody needs to take the first step.
But
it's Nigel, Max.
Yes.
How do you think, or what's the association thinking of in terms of trying to position this with those senior managers and execs? I mean, there's a few people on this call today who've worked in financial services for a long time, and they know that there is this issue at the very senior level where it's just not taken seriously. And yes, you can get sort of quick wins, and yes, you can start to sort of work through it, but it's quite a tricky sort of choice. Is there an approach that you're thinking of?
Well, Well, I think,
anyone want to respond to that?
Yep, Nigel, thanks. This is a very valid question. So one of the thinking and still a work in progress is that, at this juncture is obviously we've identified that corporate engagement, corporate partnership is something that we need to develop, and also taking on board some of the experience that our overseas chapters have shared with us, how they've been able to build that understanding. So whilst we that's on the draw cards, as in getting corporate partnership on board as well, corporate membership, so that this the subject matter of BPM comes to front of mind, at preferably some of the larger corporate, whether it's in services or in production and resources environment, which are obviously very process oriented and process heavy as well. So this is a space that.
Yeah. Nigel, let me jump to the very deep end and answer your question in a very frank way. To get senior management to be interested, there's only two things. Either first thing is making money, is profit. The second thing is compliance, something that will get them into jail if they're not complying. So why is accounting a profession? Because it's compliance. Not doing that, it's jail time. See, that is straightforward. And the other thing is, why is accounting important? Because it tells them they're making monies or they're losing monies. You see, these are the two things. That is the main focus of senior management. Without these two, it's pretty much like, don't worry about it, we can do other things. So that actually is, at this present point in Australia especially, is actually a good timing, because in the past 1 to 2 years time, there is so much compliance issues in a lot of big corporates. It's all over the place. So in order to meet all this compliance, regulatory compliance, is that the first thing is, do they have the process? Are the people following the process? Are the process up to date? All this related to business process management. It's more of how this association and ABPMP in general, how to position ourselves and say that, yes, we are the right group of people with the right knowledge base that can bring that into the centerpiece of the picture of regulatory compliance on one hand, and of course, all the process improvement is to increase the money. That is sort of a different argument. It's harder to argue on that, whereas compliance is very straightforward, especially when Australian government is making the non-compliance becoming a jailing type penalty, not
I mean,
just
I think
money.
You're absolutely right, Max, and I think there really is sort of a very significant opportunity at this point in time.
Yes.
And I'm more than happy to get involved, because I've been trying to do this for 15 years, and I'm not giving up yet.
we got a bigger stick now, not just carrot. The profit is the carrot. The compliance is the stick.
Any other questions? Because I'm aware we've got 15 minutes. 15 minutes ago as the timekeeper.
Yes, this is Tom here. I'm a BPM technologist based in Sydney. Hello everyone. Stephen, on your point when you said that you are trying to, the goal is to help the business executive understand the value of BPMs. So do you have a plan to do that? Like, how do you connect to the industry and start trying to do that? My question is, do you have a plan to do that?
Not a fully formed one, to be honest. I think being part of an international organization, we should be able to get good case studies from where people have done this. I don't think we have sufficient case studies in Australia to point to and say, these are really good examples and this is the benefit. And I think that's one of the things we lack, because we can talk at an intellectual level and it makes sense to do this stuff, right? But going from the making sense to people wanting to do it is the big leap. So it's a great question. I wish I knew the answer. Yeah.
Thanks. Yep, that's a good answer.
I think we'll probably cover that later on some of our slides. Probably we can proceed with the slides.
Sure thing.
The time.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. In the interest of time. Yep. So Stephen.
Well, part of one of the main tasks of the chapter is to conduct regular events that are of interest to members, and our intention is to run one of these each fortnight, which is probably a bit of a stretch target. even from the point of actually developing those, it might wear a bit thin on the people who would normally attend these things. So we'll look at this as we go. So we've got a program here which was based around just a bit of a brainstorming between ourselves, because we needed to have something there as part of setting up the chapter. It includes some regular workshops on the CBOC, which for people doing that course would be an opportunity to discuss say particular chapters and to talk with other people who are involved in that. But we've also got things there that we think might be used to everyone. So we've got things on change management. We've got things on process mining. We probably have stuff there on the big data if there's a use for it, or more customer journeys and things like that. Because I think BPM is an awfully big area. It incorporates most of those other things. If you know the trigger cycles, there's a cycle of the management, but then there's the cycle of the improvement side too. And when as soon as you move into improvement, you start looking about where do we get the information from, how do we change people, how do we analyze what to change, and then the management part is probably the simpler bit of being able to look at that information that's coming through to you, providing you've got a source of information, and saying, well, what's this telling me about the process? What do I need to change? And what are my goals for improvement? So having those two things working together. And the whole aim of the events program is to provide that information to people so they know what's on the horizon, what's currently working. And the expertise around many of these aspects of BPM doesn't exist within the committee members, right? We know certain aspects, and maybe not even to an extent that it'd be worthwhile talking about. So we're going to be very reliant on the people who form part of this. There was a book I read on BPM about 2003, I think it was, and it was called BPM is Business Process Management is a team sport. And it's the same thing for this. This is a team sport. It's not a spoon-fed thing. It's people getting involved. So these workshops, hopefully we'll get to the stage where some of these workshops are purely people presenting case studies of ideally successes, just as importantly, failures, where things have gone wrong in terms of BPM. So this will evolve and it will change based on the needs of the members. So we'll be taking feedback. Even after this, we'll be taking feedback of what you'd like to see as part of this events program. And we'll adjust that, because if we're not meeting the needs of you, and I'm speaking to you as prospective members, you've probably gone past that prospective stage now and into the fully blown wanting to be one. But this is all part of what we're trying to deliver. So any questions on that?
So just a quick intervention, jumping in there again, is that we will try to get thought leaders from outside to do presentation. For example, process mining, will probably get one of the professors from University of Melbourne to talk about process mining. And at the same time, we're also trying to groom a lot of the professional members within, or prospective professional members within the group in the future, to share some of their thoughts and grooming people to become thought leaders there, because we want more thought leaders in Australia in the BPM practice and BPM practitioners. So not everybody is just sitting at the bottom, but growing up to the thought leader levels and sharing that not only with ourselves in the future, we could be sharing them with other chapters across internationally, because we're talking about having some sort of international joint webinars from other chapters, so that we might be able to present our understandings and our findings from our own thought leaders groups within our chapters here with the other international chapters. So it's a great opportunity out there.
Great, thanks, Max. So move to the next slide, which is also Stephen's continuing on the education and training.
Certainly. Well, I think in a nutshell, this slide's all about three things, and we've spoken about them an awful lot tonight anyway. And that is the establishment of BPM as a professional discipline, along with clear standards and certification, so that people can, when they say, I've got this certification, it means something to people who are hiring. The second thing, of course, was to support the acquisition of knowledge and the sharing of experience amongst the BPM practitioners. So as that group, putting all our knowledge and experience into the pot, and hopefully people taking from that and learning. And of course, that final thing is to create a demand for BPM professionals. We need to make organizations want to employ people with BPM knowledge because they see it of value. The first two are probably the easiest. The certification already exists. The sharing of knowledge is what we've got planned. That last bit about creating the demand for the BPM professional, I think we need to probably work on that together as part of the group, spreading the word around how BPM can address many of the issues that people face in business today. And that's that slide done.
Yes.
Any questions around that?
Okay, so we're right. So we move on to James's section next.
Oh yeah, thank you, Quan.
No worries.
Now I've just been monitoring the, as an aside, the chat, and there's a few really good questions coming through, and Laura Fraser has offered to assist in terms of the benefits of certification from an executive recruiter's perspective in this space. So that's great. Thanks, Laura. And a couple of other, well, one of the main themes coming through appears to be about BPM and customer experience. So as well as the competency of individuals. So I think those things are, it's great to see people raising those questions. Perhaps we can have a discussion at the conclusion about that, given that we have limited time on the formal program. But let me talk about focus on the financial side of things. Now, it's important to remember that we are, and to recognise that we are part of the global worldwide body, and we are a chapter of that. So we have two sets of fees. One is the annual fee for the global body, which is shown there in US dollars. That's what they're based in the US, and that's how they charge their subscriptions. The other one is our local fee, which we have set as a committee at a very reasonable rate. It's charged in Australian dollars. It's an annual fee. We have the levels of membership there, which you can see, graded membership. So there's the full professional membership. There's an associate, an academic, which you get a great discount as an academic, full-time academic. Corporate members, so for businesses who want to have multiple members, that's a great way of joining. And then a student member. So we really want to encourage students. That's a key thing. So these are priced very, very competitively. Student members, apart from the voting rights, really get full benefits as full professional members in terms of the access to the common body of knowledge and other programs and so forth. So those are the fees there. In terms of our setup, we are certainly going to be able to levy the annual fees ourselves. We now have our full registration with Consumer Affairs Victoria as a not-for-profit association, incorporated association. We also have our full ASIC registration and our ABN, so we can operate Australia-wide and collect fees outside of Victoria, and which is our intention, is to ensure that the association is a national body. Getting back to what you actually get for those fees, which is the important thing, I guess, to you. On the international side, as a full member as a student member and corporate as well as academics, you get a free copy of the CBOC. I didn't really want to use that abbreviation, but the Common Body of Knowledge book, which is worth or costs $50 US if you buy it outright. So you can purchase it outright. You really need that if you want to be certified. With the programs that we're going to run for that to help you get to your certification level, you will need to have access to that. So that's very important. The other thing that you get access to in the US is all of their webinars and materials. They've got a fantastic archive of those. And the other thing, which is very exciting, I find, is that they've now just introduced an online learning management system. And they're progressively loading up programs and educational things which you can do online. And that provides a fantastic way of managing your own learning and development. So that's very exciting. Locally, what we're going to do, and of course, it's sort of early days, but initially what we plan to do is to have our own platform, which we can have, collection of subscriptions and management of membership and so forth. We're just purely volunteers, the 5 of us. So we want to minimize our time. Obviously, these things cost money to put in place. And we also try and minimize that through our not-for-profit discounts and so forth. But there are costs associated with setting that up. So it's the management of the online management of membership, your networking forums and so forth are all going to be online. The other thing that that we were going to look at is, of course, in terms of how we promote the group. We haven't really got into that yet, and we haven't sort of looked at what we're going to do in terms of promotion, but we need a budget to do some of these things. So what we'd really like you to do is to join up. You can pay your fees from now on. We have, as I said, we have all the registrations we require to levy those. And certainly anyone who would like to join up, we would be most welcome. We'd also welcome people to participate and to share their knowledge and their experience and to really get the association moving. So essentially the fees are there to provide us with the resource to set things up as best and as easily as we can, to minimise the time that volunteers need to spend on administration, which can soak up a lot of time, and to maximise the time that we, with our expertise, can help people in the profession and younger people coming into the profession. That's our main aim, and to promote the profession much more broadly than the membership base. So yeah, any questions on that? Is it question time now? Sorry.
It's almost, yep. We've covered that. Thanks, James. So just off to the final slide, which is open to the floor now. I'm just aware it's just past 7 o'clock, and yep. So these are the contact details for yourselves for any additional support, and also the link. So what we'll do at the end of tonight's session, we'll organize the contact details, your attending details, and we'll send an email out to all the attendees for tonight, so that I would appreciate that. If your feedback, we have a survey form as well, your feedback, and also any further questions that you have in regards to joining up the international for membership, please send them through to me. As you can see, my details or contact details are on the slide.
Yeah, I've just posted the survey form URL on the chatting. If you can quickly have a look and go there and provide your feedback and tell us how do you think. And I'm happy to continue chatting, but probably for another 5 to 10 minutes. If for those who are time limited, they might be able to drop off. But for those who are interested to discuss further on some of the questions that was brought up just now, I think we can sort of spend around 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes, and congratulations to those who've gone the distance. You've done an amazing job.
Well, thank you so much for making time on your Wednesday evening. Just especially after your whole day of Zoom and Teams video conference, attending another video conference at the close of business day. This is very much appreciated, and we really look forward to to seeing new members and participation. Working together with you, to raise this to the next level, as we've discussed. We've shared with you what our aspirations are, where we like to go, but this is where we need the collective energy and the enthusiasm of new members, to take to share with us your energy and take this take us on this journey
to infinity and beyond.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Anybody have any specific questions that you might feel reluctant to ask us now? Feel free to ask now. Open to anyone who have any questions. From joining the association to any volunteer participation or ideas, we're open to anything, as long as it's related to BPM.
And of course, you can do that at any times as well. So, yep, no worries.
All right. So,
all right. That's all. If nobody is have any more questions, we'll call it a day. And thank you, everyone.
Got 1 hour left to do any shopping if you need to do any. If you're Victorian, that is.
No, 2 hours. I thought they changed it to 9 p.m.
Reach out to us either on LinkedIn, either through our page on LinkedIn, which you found our invitation, or by email. And once again, thank you everyone for your participation. Have a great evening and stay safe. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
There's still people not dropping off. Okay, waiting.
You could have potentially died during the presentation and someone there to do it.
There's another 2. Yeah, and there's another one. We want to have a 5-minute catch up.
Yeah, certainly.
How do I hand over control to you again, James? Sorry.
I can.
Oh, you have the main controls.
No, I'll just stop.